Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, We're Not Stumped. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today I welcome a person who's making a difference in many ways, including an app she's developed. We'll talk about that app and more today, but first I want to welcome Elysia Everett, the CEO of Friendly Like Me, to the We're Not Stumped podcast. Elysia, thank you so much for being a guest today on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm
really excited because we had such a great conversation. We're going to continue to have that conversation. We had a little pre-conversation, but you told me some of your story already, but I always start the We're Not Stumped podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd like the listeners to hear a little bit about your story and how you got to this place in your life where you're making a difference.
Well, I, for many years, worked in technology at a very large law firm, held many high-level corporate jobs, and at some point, at about 20 years, my business partner and I, who's the co-founder of Friendly Like Me, decided we wanted to do something more righteous, right? We had made lawyers rich for a long time, and during that time, I had a number of experiences where meetings would be scheduled in places where that didn't fit for me, or important events would be scheduled without consideration of any kind of accommodation for someone that needed them. And I found myself in some dangerous situations, definitely in some humiliating and uncomfortable situations, certainly as a professional, that I started dreaming about building Friendly Like Me. And the original idea was I wanted to be able to search and find places that would be comfortable for someone like me. And I was hoping to get a large enough group of people to crowdsource information so that we might be able to make a difference. So that if I went someplace and found it to be friendly to my needs, which could mean lots of different things depending on who you are, I complete that review with the specifics, and I'm really helping the person coming behind me, right? I'm paying it forward for the person who lands in my city and doesn't know where to go. And so that was how we got started. And along the way, very early on, we realized that access needs, almost everyone has them, whether it's an allergy, whether it's a cognitive condition, and a visible or invisible disability, or even a temporary disability. If you break your ankle and you're on crutches, guess what? Yeah. You need help opening the door, going into a place. You are now in a position where you need to know if there's a place to store your crutches when you get inside, or if the tables will move well enough for you to get up and down. And so we find it really resonates with everyone.
Tell me about the app too, because it seems like there's a lot of data points that you collect. What type of data points and how does that all work?
So it's, I think, easiest to explain when you think about the way that Yelp reviews work or Google reviews work, where a bunch of people give you some subjective information and give you their opinion, essentially, about whether, about a place. And we didn't want to do that. I mean, when it comes to accessibility, the information is so important that, Google spent a lot of time and did some great work in accessibility where they sent their Google Guides out and they started rating the big four in accessibility: accessible entrance, interior, parking, those kinds of things. But this is being surveyed by people who do not have, right, a mobility issue. And then the output of that data is a percentage. It's a star-based kind of system. It's 4 stars for that or something. And what we really care about is specifics. So it's a completely different review paradigm. When you go to review a place, you pull it up and you're talking about, do the chairs, do the booth tables move? Is there an accessible bathroom? Is there a family style bathroom? Is there an adult changing table, only a baby changing table, right? These kinds of things. Is there a Braille menu? The answer to these things are yes and no. It's not your opinion. It's yes or no. And when you boil it down to questions like that, you get to start to do fun things with math. right? Because now you have something that's real and not subjective. And when you like if I was planning to go on a date and somebody said you pick the place before friendly, what I would do is I'm so great at recon. Like most people with access needs really, really are. But I would get on Google Images and I'd start looking at places and I'd be zooming in, looking at the chairs and trying to see, are those booth tables nailed down? Are the bar stools really small? Do they only have high tops there? All the things that a person of size will think about. And I mean, you could spend hours and hours in pursuit of this. Never mind if it's for something important like healthcare, right? Where you're looking for something, very important. But what we find is that if people don't know specifics, they don't go. And we really wanted to give people the kind of granular information that, for example, if your friend schedules a baby shower at a restaurant that doesn't have an accessible bathroom, so that's uncomfortable for me because I prefer a wider stall. But for someone in a wheelchair, that's a whole different situation. If the bathroom is not big enough, that's an accident, right? So in a lot of old buildings, you get someone, you'll find the bathroom's accessible. Well, for who? For who, right? If I'm a relatively healthy, strong upper body person in a manual wheelchair, you bet I can get right in there. If I am a person in a power wheelchair, it's often that just the turning radius of my chair alone is not, it's too big for me to get into. Never mind, if I'm in a power chair, I usually have an attendant with me, right? The person needs to come in the stall too. So the power of the specific is, back to the baby shower, if I want to go to that baby shower and I learn that the place doesn't have an accessible bathroom, I get to decide, oh, I can still go. I just can only stay for 30 minutes, right? Because I know I'm going to have to get out of there, right? If I don't know, I'm just like, I can't go. I'm not going to go. And I personally have missed tons of concerts. The Eagles' last tour, Hell
Oh
Freezes
no.
Over tour, all of my friends went to see that. And I mean, who doesn't want to go see the Eagles' last tour, right? And I stayed home because I wasn't sure what the seating situation was going to be like. It was the best concert of our lives, and I stayed home. So I I guess I'm not really answering your question, but
No,
the
this is great.
specifics of the database are really important because sometimes I only care about one thing. If I'm reserving a hotel, I just want to know that there's a shower wand in that joint, right? I don't want to know anything else because it's just me. I want to know, is there a shower wand? So when you're reviewing places, you're choosing and selecting very specific things so that someone who's searching and looking for a place can just say, I only care about shower wand. And then what's coming back to them in their search are places that meet that criteria. So it's very different than a
Yeah.
49% of people say this is pet friendly.
I'm really glad. Thank you for that explanation because as you were explaining it, my mind was going, gosh, all these data points that you already have, do you also incorporate new ones based on customer feedback? Do people go, hey, here's something else to think about?
Yes, in fact we just added three new communities. We built the system to be able so that we can continually grow it. One of the benefits of coming from tech is we know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so people will write to us and say, hey, how come you're not tracking, Braille menus or wayfinding technology or hey, we need alternative ways to schedule an appointment besides just the phone, right? And we realize, wow, there's so many more amenities that we need to be tracking than we even understood. And that list has grown to like 113 amenities or something based on people's feedback. And there's this kind of balancing point where you want the app to like move fast and work really, really well. And you don't want to overwhelm people with information. And so that's why we try to get it down to when you're looking at the review for a hotel, you're not being asked about the food or the bar, you're being asked about that room and what are the features in that room, some, about the grounds or whatever. In a restaurant, you're not getting the question about the shower wand, right? So it's very specific to the kind of business that you're going to visit. The amenities at a gym being different than the amenities at a spa that you might need, or the amenities at a doctor's office. And so that was the first really big piece of work, was to determine what was needed in each space. And of course, it's just us, right? And we did lots of research and we talked to lots of people, but you can't get 100% of it.
Yeah.
So we just, anytime someone tells us, I wish I'd been able to review this or that, if we think it's meaningful to a lot of people, we add that amenity in.
And how did you start? Did you start with a website? Did you start with like an iOS app? Did you start with both apps at the same time? I'm just curious.
No, we launched all three at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And
Go big or go home, right?
Apple, Android, and the web platform. And I really wanted the web platform because I prefer using my desktop when I'm doing recon than my phone. I want to see more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very stubborn about wanting to launch with all three technologies at once, which is why it took us 2.5 years to bring this to market, right? And yeah, we built an enterprise tool because we didn't know how to do it any differently. And so we spent a lot of time up front. But yeah, we it's very flexible. So we just added a blind low vision community, a deaf hard of hearing community, and an autism or neurodivergent community, so that we can track sensory issues in places as well. And I assume, pending lots of success, right? I assume that we'll be adding more communities. I would love to have veterans. I would love to have, lots of different groups, seniors, people who are practicing sobriety. I would love to be able to expand all the way out to the kinds of things that are important to them.
Well, generally speaking, I'm sure that passion has a lot to do with the success, and I know there's a lot of passion with what you're looking to do and what you are doing. How did that all start for you? Because you already said it, you had a successful career at a law firm, and then you decided, hey, I'm going to take the plunge, and that's a pretty major life decision. Can you talk about that one a little bit?
Terrifying. Terrifying. It was a leap of faith that, yes, people will care. Yes, people will be interested. If we build it, they will come, right? And we have invested a great deal of hard-earned money and time to make this reality. And it has not always been easy. There have been some really, really scary moments, but one of the things that really threw me over the edge was a medical situation that I had. I mean, I've told you about some of the things that would happen in business, going to an appointment where it was really uncomfortable. But I one time had a medical problem, and I went to urgent care and was told, hey, sleep sitting up, lose some weight, you'll be fine. And as it turned out, I was suffering from a pulmonary embolism. And when my doctor figured that out and we went across the street to George Washington Hospital, I needed a CT scan. And I don't know if you know this, but MRI machines and CT machines, they're hard for people who are claustrophobic, and they're super hard for people who are plus size, and they're very often hard for people who are disabled. Getting in and out and things like that. And so I, in this situation, needed a CT scan. So my doctor and I go over there, and we're in the waiting room, and now here come the nurses trying to evaluate me and decide if I'm going to fit in the CT scanner. And of course, I'm having an active medical emergency, right?
Yeah.
And she tried to call over there before we left and say, hey, do you have a wide bore MRI or a CT scan? And they said, we don't know. So then we went over there, and then there was this whole discussion about me and my body and how we were going to. And of course, I was lucky because I fit in the machine anyway. Lots of people don't. Mm-hmm. Lots of people don't. A standard MRI is like 60 centimeters wide, and a wide bore is like 80 centimeters. Oh, it's a really big difference. And so while I was in the lobby and this was all happening to me, I was reminded of several times I've broken my ankle and needed an MRI. And again, with the recon, I'm searching all over for an imaging center that can accommodate me. Now here I am in the hospital, and nobody knows if they can accommodate me. And I just decided I was going to be the one to solve this problem. I feel like I have the capability, the drive, the skill, and I want to solve this problem. I want the ambulance driver to know where to take me. I want the doctor to know where I can go. I want to look up where I can go, right? And so a big push of ours this whole time has been to try to find out the locations of imaging equipment all over the country. And I was so naive when we started. I'm like, I'm just going to call up Samsung and Hitachi and they'll tell me where everything is. Turns out that's trade secret.
Oh, I wouldn't have known that either. Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's a trade secret, right? And I'm sure there are salesmen who could tell me exactly why that information needs to stay secret. But this is something that affects not just me. We're talking about 1 in 4 people, and many, many doctors, patients, people, advocates, lobbyists have tried to get access to this information.
Wow.
And I just decided, look, sometimes you just have it. It's like brute strength. You just have to be like, all right, we're calling everywhere, right? We're researchers. We're good at it. Now we're on the websites. We're trying to find out, and every single time we find one, we're putting them in. And then one of our head of research, Taylor Euster, actually found a marketing company who had done something similar because they were trying to solve. They wanted to sell this information, right, between those competitors. So I had to buy it, but I got maybe 60% of the imaging machines in the country from that one purchase. And then with the research we've done, I might have 74, 75% of them.
Wow.
And we just pulled all that into the app. We haven't promoted it yet because we always forget that part. But this is going to make this is one of the most exciting things I think we've done, because this is an access to care issue for a lot of people. And I can't wait to release it. I mean, I'm so excited to get that out there and actually have people not have to search so much or try so hard just to gain access to healthcare.
When you say it hasn't been released, I was putting on my old IT hat myself. You mean it has been promoted to the live environment, or is it you just haven't promoted it marketing wise?
Marketing wise, yeah,
Okay.
no, it's app just fine. See, those are the things we're good at. We had that data imported like that, and then I decided I needed to promote it. Right, this is something that needs a coalition of people really working on, so that everyone finds out, and that has slowed me down. Right, I hooked up with I went to the U.S. Access Board meeting in Baltimore last year, and I hooked up with this professor of accessibility data at Hopkins. She got really excited about what we were doing, and we started talking about having a big convening, like, getting everyone to come together and say, this information is found. Of course, the perfect is the enemy of the good. So it's in the app and not promoted.
I remember that. Yeah, don't let perfect get in the way of better. I always remember that one too from my IT days. One of the things I read about you too, there's something that you've learned through. Some of the projects have included businesses around Disneyland and then also stadiums. What other types of establishments, when we go beyond some of the doctors and just like general use places, are you really thinking about as you move forward?
So we have 6 million businesses in the app. And there's like 30 million businesses in the US, and we chose the ones to reflect that have a public service area. If it's your business, we're not really reviewing workplaces or things like that. We're talking about, you walk into this gas station, you walk into this hotel, can you get into the police station? Can you get into the Social Security building? You wouldn't think that would be a thing, but it is. Wow. So what we decided is it's very broad. You can review national parks, state parks, stadiums, minor league stadiums. All the major professional stadiums have been reviewed. The spa, the restaurant, the bar, healthcare, anything where you have a reasonable expectation of being accommodated.
Yeah, and you said one of the many goals you have with the app is getting people out, and that may be the biggest reason you want to do the app. What does that mean to you that people are using this app to get out and enjoy themselves?
It means that they're not staying home when they would rather go, right? They're not staying home for lack of information. They're not staying home because of fear. So for me, my thesis, really our thesis, is that not only does this help people, but we all know that while we like to be altruistic, it's not the best motivator to get businesses to do what you want
Yeah.
them to do, right?
Yeah.
And so our thesis really is that if we're talking about 1 in 3 Americans with some kind of access need, then 1 in 3 Americans are not coming to your institution. They're not coming to your establishment. They're not coming to your place of business. And I maintain that this is a significant economic opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's the way we sell it to businesses is you cannot go wrong here. You promote
Yeah.
your accessibility and you even talk about the accessibility that you don't have so that people can make informed choices. We got to get past this. When I talk to people about businesses about accessibility, I get this very nervous response. We're compliant. We're compliant,
Yeah.
right? And that's actually not the point because those 30-year-old rules about compliance, they're minimal. They're just what they could get through, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between being legally compliant and actually friendly and welcoming to as many different people as you can be. And so when I get that scary resistance from the business owner, I frequently turn it to, so what would you say to a wheelchair user, right? Coming into your dental office. It's tight, the chairs are really close together. What would you say?
Yeah.
Well, we're compliant. I know, but what would you say? Is there a day that's better to come than other days? Do these chairs move? Are you able to, when in advance that someone's coming, are you able to accommodate them? Do you have, parking around back, easier access into the door? Tell me, what would you say to someone in a wheelchair? And that usually starts to shake them loose a little bit because we're not
Yeah.
interested in shaming businesses. That is not the way
That's great.
I don't believe to get this done.
Yeah.
And to get it done, it's going to take all of us because crowdsourcing is only as powerful as the size of the crowd,
Yeah.
right? You go to Yelp, you can be reasonably confident that business has been reviewed. Not so unfriendly like me because we're still building our user base. But the whole point is getting businesses to feel comfortable talking about something that makes them uncomfortable now. And the best way to penetrate that for me is to say, let me tell you how much money is on the line. And this is an old study, I think 2019, but people with disabilities, and we're not even talking about invisible disabilities, right?
Yeah.
Have discretionary income spend of $21 billion per year.
Wow.
So pay attention.
Yeah.
And then let us help you promote your accessibility because I think we're going to help you bring more customers. I really think we will, and so that's kind of how we approach it. And as long as we can stay in business and keep going, that's hopefully we'll have the whole country mapped. We're trying to get coast to coast. And then after that, of course, I very much want, I get a lot of requests to go to the UK and Australia, Western Europe. If I wasn't funding this myself, I would have already done it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we will receive some funding and I'll be able to go international with this so that traveling abroad becomes much, much easier.
Oh, that's a great vision you have there. And when it comes to the data, you were talking about how businesses is it one of those things where they can describe themselves and what they offer, and then it's enhanced by what the user generated content or the crowdsourcing, as you said?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So to your point, it's like Yelp. Okay, this is fantastic. I love it.
Claim your listing just like you do on Yelp. I'm the business owner. I claim my listing. And you basically complete an accessibility review, the very same one that the user does, right? Or the customer or the patron. And then we ask you a few more questions and we give you the opportunity to say, yeah, all right, I'm not ideal. My situation here is not ideal, but here's where you can park. And here's what I will do. And here's how I can help you. Please come visit me at my business. I mean, we did a great story in Denver last year. It was right before Pride, and we were trying to identify the top 10 most accessible gay bars in Denver. And if you're only doing your image recon, I found a lot of places that looked amazing, right? But we always call. And this one bar in particular, I was going to rank as number one. I mean, the pictures were amazing. I could tell it was all new construction. It was incredible. And then I found out, yeah, that's the main floor, but all the parties are downstairs. All the parties are downstairs in the basement in the old bar, the speakeasy,
Oh, yeah.
and there's no elevator. So
Wow.
it might be cool to go there for dinner, but it's not cool to go on Pride,
Yes.
when everyone's partying because you're going to be upstairs, right? I mean, you're going to be on the main floor. And then on the flip side, I found an incredible bar owner in Denver who had just the worst. I mean, he clearly was in 100-year-old building, right?
Mm.
Uh, no, except not accessible at all. And when I got him on the phone, he's like, "Oh, but we have a plan. Here's what we do. Is I have his temporary ramp and I put it out, and then we move the furniture, and when someone comes in a wheelchair, they get to go right down in front of the stage, best seat in the house." Like, that's a great business owner. And
Yes.
no one knows they could go there because if they were only looking at the pictures, they would assume no way. And so it's an opportunity for businesses to claim and say, "Hey, I know this doesn't look ideal, but we can take care of you anyway." And I hope lots of other people went to that bar last Pride season because of that. I hope,
Well, I have
you know.
a story of someone that was on the podcast. Her name is Jennifer J.J. Johnson. She's a bilateral above knee amputee, and she went to a local watering hole here in Arizona, and where they had to seat her because of constraints on their part, as she said, she was looking at everyone's butts all night, and that's all she was able to see. So we ended up going to that establishment and having a really positive conversation. I think awareness part of it is overall is a healthy thing too. And I think what you're doing here helps promote awareness. So if a business is starting their journey of making sure that they're more accessible or want to even promote it, you said they can claim their business. How do they do that? Can they do that on the app? Can they do that online? Can they do it on both?
They can do it everywhere on those three enterprise platforms that rolled out at the same time. You can go in, you can claim your business. And the only thing that we ask is that you sign up for an account.
As you look forward, is what are some of the next steps for your app? What are you looking to do? What do you need? I mean, if someone happens to be listening and they could wave that magic wand, what would be the thing that you would need to continue and to make it bigger?
Expert marketing advice. Expert marketing advice for businesses to claim all of their locations. We're working with Hand and Stone right now, for example, to claim all of theirs, and they have, 600 locations in the US. And it turns out that getting a massage is very, very accessible.
That's great.
Tables lift up and down. They're totally prepared. I never would have. I never would
Yeah.
have known. So what I would like is to be able to go international. I would like to have lots and lots of partners helping us because we cannot do this alone. I would like the disability community to show up and review places and make this project their own. Um,
That's great.
yeah, I would like to get funding, and I would like to expand, and I would like for us to be the largest aggregator of accessibility information in the world.
I could see that happening. So if people wanted to get a hold of you to help some of these things you're talking about, is that just a contact us page through the app or the three platforms you talked about, or what would be the
You
best
can
way?
definitely go to the website and use the contact us form. You can also reach me at my email, which is very easy because it's Elysia@friendlylikeme.com. And we will take you seriously.
And you're also on LinkedIn. I know that. So that's so what else are you looking forward to on a personal level? Is it and do you have any other projects going on, or is this pretty much your passion project, which I'm sure it is, but I'm just
It
oh,
is. I'm also running a really interesting art in the built
yeah,
environment company that does a lot of healthcare art, behavioral health art, and things like that. That's why I have such incredible art behind me. I'm in my office here right now. And I did not want to not be full-time on Friendly, but after 3 years, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we have to pay bills and we have to
sure,
do things.
yeah,
But my project is Friendly.
yeah.
This is something that has driven and consumed me for a number of years, and has, it's something that I very much want to succeed. And by success, I'm hoping and expecting, right, that Apple or Google or Foursquare or somebody else will pick this company up at some point and leverage this information in a way that, could never be as big as, right? For Google, though, that would mean changing their whole review paradigm, right? That whole star-based system would have to go. And so I don't know what the future holds for us, but I just want to, I just want for, I want for our communities to come back out.
Yes.
I want them to come out and play, and have access to all of the things.
Well, I know the people that listen to this podcast definitely will. This is something that's near and dear to their heart because they have definitely accessibility issues for sure, and challenges. I guess is probably a better way to put it. But I asked you this question when you first turned on the camera. That picture that you have in the background is amazing. It's. Can you explain that?
This picture is an original piece of the Golden Gate Bridge made out of circuitry and semiconductors and circuit boards. And, it appeals to to me as a nerd very much. And I also if I could live anywhere, right, it would be the Bay Area. It's a place that's very important to me. And so, this is a rad piece of art. I love the picture.
I saw that. And so people that are listening to the podcast, make sure you get on YouTube and check out this picture that's made with some of the coolest parts. I noticed that right away. I'm like, wow, that's kind of neat. I'm a little jealous, but no, I'm not just jealous. I'm kidding. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast. I think what you're doing, I know with what you're doing is so important. And I hope nothing but the best for you and continued success, because your success is going to make it so much better for many other people.
I hope so. And I as I think about a little further about your question about what do I really wish that we could penetrate, and that every person with a disability was using this app and reviewing places so that our data gets richer and richer and more beneficial. And that's one of the hardest bits of all, right? Is actually getting the traction that we need. And it's going to take all of us.
And you're right. And you've gotten some great feedback already. I mean, that's got to feel great, understanding that you've already made an impact on people's lives.
Yes, that is a really big part of why we did this.
Yeah.
It's very validating, that piece of it.
Well, I mean, that you changed your life, for lack of a better term, right? I mean, you completely decided to move on for a very secure career that you had to try to give back. And I think it's one of the best stories we've had on We're Not Stumped. And I thank you so much for your time today. I can't tell you how excited I am for this app. And thank you personally for the time you gave me today.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Boland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikeboland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.